Happy Sunday and welcome to the channel. I am here to give you guys a few trade ideas that I think you might appreciate. So we'll go ahead and jump into the charts here. I hope everyone had a blessed and wonderful weekend and we're ready to go for the week. I will be definitely occupied, so most positions will have to be swing positions so that I can focus on what I have going on for the week. So I want to make sure that as I go through the week, I'm giving you updates on a few tickers that I'm watching. The first one I have is Nvidia because I did not realize Nvidia has earnings this month. I don't know why I felt like we had earnings and now we're back here again. Before I get into the Nvidia chart, please do like this video if you find it helpful. Make sure to leave comments if you just want to support or have any questions, and then subscribe to the channel as well if you find this to be helpful for you. Now, with Nvidia, yeah, they have earnings. They have earnings on August 27th. I will admit I really was surprised. I didn't really realize we were here again. So I do have Nvidia on my watch because of earnings. Let's get this out of the way. Yep. So because of earnings, I do have them higher on my watch. It's pretty clear what we need to do here for Nvidia. We don't have to make this too complicated. They basically have to break this high right here. So if you look to the left, the high that they stamped was 183.30. That was on the 31st. And since then, we've attempted twice, right? We have this wick here. If we zoom in a little bit so you can see, we have a wick right here that attempted to break this high. And then we have another candle here that was for Friday that also attempted to get above and close above 183. I'm sorry. I may have said that wrong. So the high here is 183.30. And we had this candle that went to 183.88, but they did not close that high. And then we had another candle on Friday attempt the same thing and did not close higher in price than this candle here, candle's high here. So what I'm looking for on Nvidia is whether or not we'll see that breakout above this range. I keep it at 183.30. And then just keep in mind we have went to 183.88 with this wick. In fact, this may be our better wick to reference from here, just to make sure we're getting a clean breakout. And then that will give us a projection that Nvidia is going higher. Now, again, they have earnings this month, so that's something to keep in mind too. And where we could go based on just layering in fib, we have a target of 198.08 on the daily chart. You can really plug in the ATR here. So with us needing to break above 183.30, we'll just say 183. You just can add $4 to that, right? Add $4 to that, and then that's your target based on ATR. $4.33 is our average range for the daily chart. So you can use that as a projection of where we can go if NVIDIA does try to break out. So again, that's going to be your key breakout for NVIDIA that I would recommend watching on this particular chart. Keep in mind they do have earnings on August 27th, and it's very well that they can just blast off leading up to their earnings and continue this uptrend. So you don't want to try to call the top on a company like NVIDIA. What you want to do is just honestly plan to see where we're going based on movements leading up to their earnings. So you also want to be mindful of being careful to hold positions through earnings just in case this thing tanks post earnings. But from here, to keep a bullish move going, we need to break this high area here. So they're kind of in a box and just consider that a box. And then if we get that break, if you start seeing candles holding above like 183.88, then your target is likely to play out. I would definitely put time on contracts if you feel that they're going to go higher. If they start to continue to reject and start to break, especially the low of Friday, if we zoom in there, then look for them to come back and test Thursday's low. So this is how I'm just basing my immediate targets is if we pull back Monday, if we're breaking pre-market low, we're looking weak, we could potentially come back down to 178.80 and look to probably test the 12 EMA again and see what happens from there. So I won't spend too much time on Nvidia. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. They do have earnings on the 27th, and we're kind of just waiting for this breakout here, or they're going to give us a pullback. And that pullback, I would definitely look for potential entries especially buying in at any type of demand zone that we have. Now, order blocks on the daily are much lower. So if we take it maybe down to like the 4 hour, here's yeah, you'll watch that 178 area. Actually right here it has it at 170 on 4 hours. So we're looking for potentially if we get a pullback as low as 171 on Nvidia. That's a pretty strong pullback, but you never know if that happens before earnings, and then we start to see buyers accumulating back in this area where we have demand and then bouncing back up. So don't get too bullish on Nvidia here at the top unless you're seeing the signs that we're continuing to break out. Ideally, you want that pullback. You want to pull back to get under 178 and maybe even lower. I would love it at 170 and lower if possible. So keep that on your mind. Watch for Nvidia. Apple, let's take a look at where we are with Apple, AAPL. Apple, super bullish following their news. So it has been on a run. I do like the chart still, even after this pop. As we know, as we've been following Apple, it has been in a box, even pulled back post earnings. But Apple needs to break out from here. I would measure previous day high and low for one. So if you get it above 230.67, actually 231 and holding, maybe look for that target to move us to, let's see, 233.01. Oops, get that out the way. 233.01. Yeah, so keep that on watch for actually 231 would be our break. And then we're looking for the breakout to 233.01 and above. And so we'll just play that by target. But you can see here that we have sellers position on the daily chart here in the 240. So if we reach 244.86, we could see some um, where momentum starts to slow down because we're reaching an order block that has been positioned since February of this year, where we had Apple hit this peak and then pull back. So that'll be my watch for Apple. I think they look really good, very strong, finally breaking out. They are the last, one of the last two breakouts. So I think they still do have that opportunity. Immediate target, if we're looking at the 4 hour, I have 238 as a watch. Um, Yeah, I like 238 as the immediate target before we hit the 240s. Now, one thing here is just like Tesla has TSLL, um, AAPU is what we're looking for Apple's, we call it the baby ticker. And so if you're a small account trader, if you're someone that would rather shares, maybe you can't afford full shares of Apple, you can follow this just the way you follow TSLL with Tesla and the same momentum you're looking for. So this is the daily Apple bull 2 times shares. You want to follow this chart if you're bullish on Apple and you're looking for similar moves, right? So I would keep this one on watch. I do like it. Shout out to the small account group in the Wolf Discord for calling this out as something to watch if we're using a smaller account. So still kind of same scenario here. You want to see the break above Friday's high or wait for a nice healthy pullback. Ideally, in this fair value gap would be great. And then we're looking for a bounce back up into this zone here. And then ideally, if they can break out, you can see the clean space we have from here with a breakout. So just want to put that on your radar. You know, some people trade with a smaller account, so then you can consider AAPU, and you can also see that it's even affordable for shares that you can build a position with the idea that maybe we're going to the 30s, 36 area here, and that would be your trade if you're not comfortable with trading Apple. Let's see what else we have. So QQQ. You guys know I am always on QQQ. If you took the QQQ trade, then you should have had a really nice Friday to close out the week. And then thanks for checking out the page, right? Look for my post. Sometimes if I'm not posting a video, what I will do is try to post out my watch list or a big one on my watch so that way I'm sharing with the group even in on the YouTube page what I'm looking at. So I did provide the levels here on this channel for QQQ. Main thing that we were watching was support holding at 570.62 on QQQ, right? So if support was to hold 570.62, I felt like the move would be bullish. And so it indeed did. Barely made it under that. And even so, we bounced and had a $5 plus day on QQQ. And we went right to the weekly high and the most high, I think this is our, yeah, all-time high point of 574.63. In Discord, I said watch for the wick. We did get that wick right through that price target. And I think after hours, they were even higher, like a dollar plus higher than here. So it'll be very interesting to see how the opening plays out for QQQ. But yeah, that's the QQQ is very much at all-time highs, so you just want to play this one smart. I've already told you you can layer in fib if you don't know how to actually place your own fibs together. You can use the auto fib feature and set your targets from there. I would use a smaller time frame so you have more realistic targets for QQQ. But yeah, we basically, if we look at how they closed, they did not close above the all-time high, but I did notice after hours they were below. So I'm just going to follow this range here. This is a big range to follow. And we'll look to see if we pull back, if we do hold support here at 573.32. And then I would still keep 570.62 on my watch as key support. If that breaks down, then as you can see, we have some nice opportunities for a pullback. Even looking at Thursday's low, which pulled back all the way to 565.11. Another successful trade because even after pullback, you're also having those nice bounces. So it's telling you that still, as we get those pullbacks in the month of August so far, investors are buying the dip. And when they're buying the dip, they're pushing us back to another all-time high. So we'll keep QQQ as our hot day trade opportunity ticker to watch. It's a good ETF to follow. It does flow very well with tech. Um, Another one that we have been following is UNH. And, UNH to me still looks weak. I'm not convinced that we are ready to just break out. There is a gap if you put your eyes on it. We do have a gap right here that UNH can possibly pop back to and try to fill. Now, in terms of whether or not that's going to play out anytime soon, I don't know. You just would want to follow your levels. It's clearly, if you look at it, even so here, kind of in a box that in this range here that it still would need to break out of. So if you see it starting to hold above 250, 251, maybe watch it there. There is a nice opportunity to get it to 257, 258, and then possibly all the way to 272. But if that happens, I'm wondering if we're going to have a bounce here and then a pullback, and this time we're coming lower, maybe even as low as the 200s, lower into the 200s. But there is nothing just yet here on UNH that's telling me I like it. I'll just wait it out. If anything, I like the idea of shortening it again to even the 230s would be ideal for UNH. Just wanted to show you that I'm not super bearish, I'm bullish or bearish on this chart, where it's that we really need to see if we have found some sort of support. This was the wick that I've always been watching here on UNH that we actually pulled back to and lost as support. So that's that 248.88. I've been watching 248.88 for a minute, and we did lose it here on the first. And we've kind of been chopping around trying to recover it. I would be very interested, actually. I'm going to put an alert here to see if we get back above 248.88. It played out perfectly. So I think it's worth following that same level and seeing what happens. So yeah, there is a gap to fill up here, but whether or not we come We'll have to see. That is the post earnings gap. You can even tag in let's clean that up and add in, oops, I didn't want to do that. We'll clean it up and we'll layer in an anchored VWAP to their earnings here. And you can see that price on the daily chart is also falling below the anchored VWAP, potentially giving a chance to short UNH again. So I know there's people that have went heavy because we're dropping. Don't try to call the bottom on anything. Just play what you see, position yourself where you see. But ideally, where you want to buy is where we hold in demand. Now, I don't know if UNH is going to come this low. I don't know if that's going to happen. But I mean, that will be another amazing buying opportunity. Or if you start to see that real demand is pulling this thing up and we're starting to reclaim some EMAs, then yeah, we have a really nice chance, like I said, to close that gap from earnings. And that is still very possible. I would just wait to see that. It even looks better if we hold above 253.22. So maybe even say 253.25 or something. Somewhere around 253. If we're holding there, then yeah, we may have some opportunities to try to squeeze our way back up and close that gap. And if that happens, then maybe this is where we have found support and we're back moving up on UNH ahead of their, I guess, next earnings, which should be months away. Next earnings on UNH is going to be in October, October 21st. I do have a trade on Dell that we called out. So I want to cover that chart. All right, so if you took the trade with me, I did post actually I posted in the YouTube channel to watch Dell as a bonus watch for the closing of the week. What we were looking for was for Dell to break above 136.11, where I seen there was some resistance around there. It did. And where we kind of capped off was trying to break above 138. So that's going to be my next watch, is just seeing if Dell can reclaim 138. Ultimate target is here. They do have earnings on the 28th of August. And so, yeah, I'm looking to see, we have an inverse arc happening on the wolf chart right here where we're getting that crossover. Now my goal is to see if Dell can go ahead and climb back to this area here at around 142.65. If you do position yourself in any contracts, you want to try to get it out further to as close to this date as possible, if not even a little bit out, further out. You want your strike price ideally to be 138, 139. I really wouldn't go over 140, but you can, understanding that we'll probably get to 142. So I wouldn't suggest going too far out the money on this one, but it still is a high potential, s- I guess you could say A plus setup if we can reach that target here of around 148. It matches perfectly to where we are here. If you look back to November 24th, just think that's where we can see our next break. Um, and when we look back, 138 has been an area of resistance if we look to the left here before we had that break here. Now, if they break out here and go further up, this is what we look like with Dell. They've been here before, and if we zoom completely out to the monthly chart on Dell, we're also getting a nice arc that, your best positioning would have been getting in July. But it's okay because we haven't broke the high, and well, we have broke the high of July, but not anything critical crazy where you're too late for a potential pump. And we'll just keep our target around 142 to 148 for Dell. You see the wicks here? That's what we're looking to challenge next if you're looking to the left. So Dell, in my opinion, as long as we're holding these arcs, we're shaping up to probably get to the 140s, and then we'll see what happens once we reach about 140. This is our first target right here, around 147.66. Actually, I think it's 142, right? Yeah, I think we're looking at 142, but as high as 147, 148. I think it's a nice setup still. If you get a pullback, even better. As you can see, we were stacking with buyers as we were coming from the 120s. So since then, it's been stacking. There's been plenty of opportunities to get in. Perfect opportunity would have been somewhere around here, and you just ride Dell up, positioning yourself for the next earnings. That's when smart money started to accumulate their their money into their positions into Dell, and it's been moving since. So I still like Dell. I still see the potential at least to squeeze to 142, 143, and a peak of maybe 147, 148 on Dell. I have a few notes here. One thing that I am watching is EMPH that is at their lowest point. But what I did want to bring up was we have Zoom that has earnings, and there was one other stock that I had on my watch. Let's see if I can get it pulled up. Yes, Marvel. All right. So I wanted to look at Marvel as well. And Marvel has earnings on the 28th of August. They had a nice closing, in my opinion. They seem to hold support right about here, um, around 76.48. That's just a rough number. So I'm watching Dell to see if we're going to break out, right? So you see this candle, if we look here to the left, that was Thursday's candle. That one was a high of 77.25. We also have this candle here, which is Friday's candle that I'm watching. Your idea for Marvel is to break out of this above 179 and potentially start to target 80s, 81, 83. And I'm just throwing rough numbers out and maybe come back and challenge this wick right here at 85.27, where we first sold off. But if we kind of look at the picture here, they pulled back, they've been pulling back since March and April and steadily climbing up. Bit of a choppiness as they climb. I would say, they pop up and then they have to pull back to our 12 EMA, but it has been an up climb since April's lows. And we peaked up right here, and I think this would be a nice area to come back and challenge if they can break above 79. And the real key would be breaking above 81.12 and then climbing back up to somewhere around here and seeing if we can start holding above this 200 weighted moving average. So I'm looking for a price to hold above the entire cloud as a ideal. And then you can just see the potential in a trade with MRVL if we do start to break out. So if we get above 85.06 and start to hold, there's just some nice moves that we can see coming out of this one ahead of earnings. So I think that this one will be a nice watch for me. We're already getting an arc forming on the 4 hour, and you can take this and do a top-down analysis, but you can see where we'll have the selling pressure once we start to meet up to these high points. So I would still just say 81.12 is your breakout after you get above 79. And then if you can climb through there, we're looking for 85.26 and then possibly around $87. Great opportunity because we do have this stock ahead of their earnings. So there's time before they even have their earnings to position yourself. And this is how you can possibly get a nice move out of a stock even before earnings was to come around. So earnings closer to the end of the month, you start to look to see if we have buyers stepping in, pushing it to those levels ahead of earnings. And we can look at the weekly chart and see that exactly about where I have it is where we need to see the breakout. I would say, yeah, $79. Get $79 cleared. We should get to that 81, which is this week right here, and then try to come back to 85 and ideally here. We are under the weighted wolf trend moving average on the weekly chart. However, breaking above these levels would get us back above the wolf trend moving average. So we did a nice pullback to the 12 on the weekly. We do have the best positioning would have been when it was in the 50s, honestly. 50s and 60s looks really good. But that's okay because what we're getting here is a full cloud crossover on the weekly chart where we have the 12 EMA crossing the 12 EMA cloud crossing above the 200 cloud. And so that's a good idea that we may be trying to break out. And I don't think it's too late on this one. So you can watch these levels, map it out for yourself, see if you see the same thing and agree. But there's some nice opportunities for this to gap up even before they ever post their earnings. And so that gives you a trade idea before earnings were to clear. Now, where I was also looking here and where I found Marvel was through a screener. So if you are screening and trying to get positioned into some plays before earnings, you can just use your screener. I use the one on TradingView, and basically I have it filtered to upcoming earnings for this month. And I do like to look at buys and strong buys as potential moves. And so Marvel is showing up there. We have PANW, BABA, and a few other stocks. So you have penny stocks here, you have all sorts of stocks, and you can continue to clean this. Like you can have it where you have a certain price range that you're looking at. Nvidia was like top of the list here for earnings, which again, I didn't even realize we were going to have earnings on Nvidia this month. Zoom, I am also watching because they have earnings this week. No, I'm wrong. On the 21st, they have earnings, but they have hit an order block on the daily chart. I'm just trying to see if they're going to come try to wick through this order block, coming down as low as 69.71, and then whether or not they'll find support and bounce back up from there. So I do have Zoom on my watch list, and I'm not bullish on this. I'm just looking to see where they find support. In fact, there may be an opportunity to short if it continues to get weaker in this order block. And that would be challenging the low candle that you see here from April's low. So they're back to April's low on Zoom. And that was at 69.66, what I'll be watching for an opportunity of chance to short. So I'm going to stop the video here. Let me know what else is on your watch list. Do you like the Dell idea? Do you like the MRVL? Do you like QQQs for another breakout? Curious to know your thoughts as well. So leave a comment. Again, if you found this video helpful, please do like, subscribe, and share these videos out. I will be looking to do a midweek update. I mean, you may even get an update Monday. We'll see how the market does. But yeah, keep up also with the posts that I put on this channel because I will try to at least give you one or two plays on a post that you can also follow, and I'll try to include levels for you to look at. Thanks for jumping in. And again, thanks for all the support. Have a great week.